Engage quantum drive.
Katie has trivia.
I do. I got some trivia and fun facts. And I forgot to say I sure do today, but that's
It was
okay.
close enough.
So this episode is entitled Midnight Blue. And I was like just looking up like, what is midnight blue? What does it mean? It's a dark shade of blue named for its resemblance to the apparently blue color of a moonlit night sky around a full moon, which is such a specific color. Like that's just something where I feel like it has its own mythos around it. But I had a theory that the name of this episode is Midnight Blue because it might be referring to the Luminites in this episode that we see that are that rare blue color. And then Topa goes chasing after that in the moonlight before Topa's kidnapped. So I'm like,
and we
maybe
have the
that's
double
what
full
it's from.
moon up there too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that is my theory. And I just thought it was worth mentioning because I'm curious about those things. And I like kind of analyzing why a show is called what it's called.
That makes sense to me.
Also, this is the longest episode to date, clocking in at 1 hour and 27 minutes. So it's the longest episode of the Orville ever. So far.
So far.
There's still room for another episode to kind of beat that, but this was like a feature-length movie episode.
Yeah. A lot of movies on average come in at around 90 minutes. So this is right on the border of that.
Yeah, this is like a feature-length Orville, and I know I wasn't complaining about that. And I started realizing today that this is episode 7.
8.
No, it's 8. So there's only 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm grieving that a little bit. So sometimes just savoring those extra minutes is the best thing. I can't believe we're only have 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
Then next, I have mostly Dolly fun facts, which seems appropriate for this episode. The first one being after the evening meal, and while the female Mocklins are dancing around the fireplace, there's a song that's playing, and it is an instrumental cover of a Dolly Parton song called Jolene.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Dolly's music, if you put on Jolene, you will notice immediately it's the same song. So Mark
recognized the song right away, and I was like, wait, is that a Dolly Parton song? Because I'm just not that familiar with her catalog, but I've definitely heard that song plenty of times before.
Mark listened to a podcast about Dolly Parton, and then he read a book, and so he loves Dolly Parton. And so as soon as that started playing, he's like, hey, that's Jolene. It's like, all right. And I wrote it down right away. The song Dolly is playing for Havina in that simulation part of this episode is called Try, and that is from her 2014 album called Blue Smoke. So that was a newer
Smoke,
song.
Midnight Blue, weird connection.
Maybe. I thought that as well, but I wasn't sure if that was me being too much of a conspiracy theorist.
Probably, but I still noticed it too, so.
Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting because I had not heard that song before. And I'm curious I think it is like a rendition for the show.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, so it was neat to see Dolly Parton in this episode. Seth MacFarlane also tweeted a fun fact saying Dolly and her side of the cabin were filmed in Nashville, while Havina's side was filmed in LA, thanks to the director John Cassar, director of photography Jeff Mygat, production designer Stephen Lineweaver, and the talents of Dolly Parton and Rena Owen. You'd never know it.
That is wild to me because I didn't know about that until after I watched the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings us back to like the idea of them putting that courtroom scene back together and what it took to do that. And this had to be a similar undertaking where they were bringing an actual set to another state to get this thing set up. And yet at the same time, they also had Rena Owen at one point go out to Dolly Parton because we've seen pictures with them together. And it's incredible what they pull off, and you would never know.
Yeah, I saw a tweet too from Tom Constantino, who always tweets behind the scenes. And there was a picture of the set. And on the set, I'll put a picture up on the YouTube if you're watching the YouTube, but it says something along the lines of like, thanks for sending us such an incredible set. Hello from Nashville. Mm-hmm. So they sent the set across the country, and that's just wild to me. That's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. They are doing everything they possibly can to make the best show that they can, and it's so worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, those are all the fun facts I have, but there's quite a bit of guest stars in this episode. We've talked about them in past trivia guest stars, but Topa, played by Imani Pullum, is back. Havina is also back, played by Rena Owen, both amazing actresses. And every time I see them now, I'm like, oh, this episode in general had a really interesting discussion. So I was excited to see them bring Havina back for like a big episode. Also, the president is back, played by Bruce Boxleitner. And we've talked about him before, but I thought it was worth mentioning that there is a new novella out called The Orville, Sympathy for the Devil, which is written by Seth MacFarlane, and it's narrated by Bruce Boxleitner, and it's now out on ebook and audiobook for people to buy and listen to. And my understanding is it was an episode that they didn't get to make this season.
Yes, originally the season was supposed to have 11 episodes, but because of the pandemic, that cut into production, obviously increasing the length, but they also had to end up chopping one episode. I assume just based on the costs of making up footage that they lost and things like that. So yeah, that lost episode became a novel.
Yeah. And I know you and I have plans to listen to it or read it soon.
We do.
In the near future. So I'm excited about that. Also, a fan favorite makes an appearance in this episode. Dan is back. I love Dan. Dan is played by Mike Henry, who is also a voice actor and has been an American Dad, Family Guy. And Rob, you're also a fan of Gilmore Girls, if I remember correctly.
Love Gilmore Girls.
He played a character, Mike Henry did, not Dan, named Ed in Gilmore Girls, and he showed up in like 4 episodes.
I don't know if the name is specific enough for me to place it, but...
I know, but I saw that he was in Gilmore Girls, and I just felt like that was an important fact to share, that he was also in your beloved Gilmore Girls.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next up is Noshir Dalal, who played a very big role in this episode, the torturous Garkal. The actor said on Twitter, "Monsters and stories can serve as a cautionary tale, a chance to put a face on our own demons so that they can be confronted. Thank you, Seth MacFarlane, Tom Constantino, and John Cassar for letting me be my worst self." And man, that character was intense and very well done.
Oh, yeah.
So I just thought I would share that because I really appreciated his performance in this episode. And last but not least, Dolly Parton is in this episode.
Yeah.
Don't know if you noticed. Previously, Ed had shared her music with Havina and it spoke to her. So he got a simulation put together so Havina could meet Dolly Parton in this episode, and Dolly played herself. Dolly has been a standard in the music industry since her album debut in 1967 called Hello, I'm Dolly.
Jeez.
She has topped the charts with her music, starred in films from 9 to 5 from 1980 and The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in 1982, which she earned a Golden Globe for.
Oh, wow.
And she also has a theme park called Dollywood in Tennessee, which I have been to. So I just thought I needed to say that. So if you're ever, I can't remember where, we drove like an hour to go to it, and I went on a really scary corkscrew roller coaster, but I went to Dollywood, so I've actually been there. Yeah, it's a cool place. I don't know if you ever get a chance to. It celebrates all things Dolly, and I think it's kind of fun. So those are all the fun facts and guest stars for this episode.
Okay.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. This is just a segment of the full podcast that Rob and I do. So if you want to hear more of our thoughts and full episode discussions, go to thegeekgeneration.com/quantum drive.